What death taught me about life. Buddhist teachings that transform. Have you ever wondered what your very last day on earth will be like? Not just a bad day, but the day, the one where you take your final breath, where your hands loosen, your body softens, and the world slowly fades out. It might feel uncomfortable to think about it, but here's a quiet truth. Thinking about death can actually awaken you to life. In Buddhist wisdom, death is not something to be feared. It's something to be understood, even befriended. There's a powerful quote from the Buddha that says, "Of all the footprints, that of the elephant is supreme. Likewise, of all mindfulness meditations, that on death is supreme." Why would a spiritual master say that meditating on death is more important than anything else? Because when we face death with awareness, we finally begin to live with purpose. In this video, we're going to explore what death can teach us about peace, presence, and true happiness. We'll walk through ancient Buddhist insights, scientific perspectives, and emotional truths that can help you release fear and embrace the beauty of now. If you've ever lain awake at night, wondering what it all means, or felt a quiet sadness when thinking about loved ones aging, stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover may change the way you live, and even how you die. And if any part of this touches your heart, don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts. Why we fear death, and why that's okay. Let's be honest. Most people avoid talking about death. It's like an invisible wall we walk beside our entire lives, but never dare to look over. And that fear is deeply human. Psychologists have a name for it: death anxiety. It's the quiet dread that can show up in small ways, like panic at night, obsessively taking vitamins, or clinging to youth as the years pass. But here's the twist. The fear of death isn't just about the end. It's about the unknown. The idea that everything we've built, our relationships, our memories, our legacy, might one day vanish. Buddhism doesn't tell us to get rid of that fear. It invites us to observe it, to ask, what is it that I'm really afraid of? Is it pain? Being forgotten? Losing control? Once we start naming what death represents to us, it loses some of its shadowy power. As the Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh once said, fear keeps us focused on the past or worried about the future. If we can acknowledge our fear, we can realize that right now we are okay. Pause for a moment. Can you feel your body? Your breath? You're here, now, and that matters. In this way, acknowledging our fear becomes the first step toward peace. It's not about pretending we're not scared. It's about building the courage to look death in the eye and keep walking. Impermanence. The beautiful truth behind everything that ends. Imagine holding a fresh flower in your hands. It's vibrant, fragrant, alive, but you know, deep down, that in a few days, the petals will wilt. The color will fade, and it will return to the earth. That truth isn't tragic. It's what makes the flower precious. In Buddhism, this idea is called anicca, or impermanence. It's one of the 3 fundamental marks of existence, and it teaches that everything that arises will eventually pass away. Our bodies, emotions, careers, even our relationships, none are fixed or forever, and yet, we spend so much of life resisting this natural flow. We chase youth. We deny change. We avoid endings. But what if we stopped resisting? What if, instead of clinging, we chose to see clearly? Aging isn't a failure. It's part of the cycle. And death? It's not the opposite of life. It's part of it. There's a famous Zen saying, "When you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky." That laughter comes not from denial, but from the liberation of no longer needing to hold on so tightly. You begin to live each moment with more attention, more gratitude, more reverence. Impermanence doesn't mean life is meaningless. It means life is urgent and infinitely precious. If that resonates with you, gently tap the like button. It helps us share this message with others who might need it today. Death awareness isn't morbid. It's a path to peace. At first glance, reflecting on death may sound dark, even depressing. But scientific research tells a different story. A groundbreaking study in the field of terror management theory showed that when people are gently reminded of their mortality, they actually begin to live with more compassion, more intention, and a deeper sense of meaning. Why? Because death awareness wakes us up. It clears the noise. It reminds us of what truly matters. Buddhist monks in Thailand sometimes meditate in cemeteries, sitting quietly among bones and ashes. Not to frighten themselves, but to deepen their understanding of life. One monk said, "When you understand death, you stop wasting time." Think about that. How much of our energy is spent on things that don't matter? Old grudges, social comparison, worrying about what others think. But when we bring death gently into awareness, not in panic but in presence, we begin to let go. We forgive more easily. We prioritize connection. We feel more grateful for the ordinary moments, a warm meal, the laughter of a friend, the softness of sunlight on your skin. This isn't about being morbid. It's about being awake. Take a breath right now. Feel it fully. That breath is a miracle. Don't let it pass unnoticed, because the more we understand death, the more we understand life. The self is an illusion, and that's the key to freedom. Who are you? A name? A body? A collection of memories? Most of us live with a sense of being a solid, unchanging I, something permanent. But both Buddhism and modern neuroscience challenge this idea. The Buddha taught that the self is not a fixed thing. He called it anatta, the absence of a permanent self. What we think of as me is actually a stream of experiences, thoughts, emotions, sensations, constantly changing, just like clouds in the sky. Even modern brain science supports this. There's no single spot in the brain where your identity lives. Instead, it's a network of processes, like a song being played, but no one instrument playing alone. So why does this matter when we talk about death? Because if the self is not fixed, then death is not the end of a fixed thing. It's simply a change in the song, a letting go. The fear of death comes mostly from the belief that something solid is being destroyed. But what if nothing solid was ever there to begin with? The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes death not as destruction, but as transition, a passage through different states of consciousness, not unlike dreaming, waking, or falling asleep. And when we start seeing ourselves not as statues, but as rivers, always flowing, always changing, then death becomes less of a wall and more of a door. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. Rumi. If this idea touches something in you, share it in the comments. What do you believe happens after death? By loosening our grip on the idea of me, we create space. Space for peace, for surrender, for true connection with the present moment, the only place we ever really live. Grief as a teacher, loving without holding on. Let me ask you something. Have you ever held someone's hand and known it might be the last time? The lump in your throat, the ache in your chest, that silent prayer that time would freeze, just for a few more seconds. Grief is one of the most intense human experiences, but in Buddhism, it's not something to be fixed or rushed through. It's something to be felt fully, because grief is the shadow of love. You only grieve deeply what you've loved deeply. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a practice called maranasati, or death contemplation. One form of it is reflecting on the eventual loss of everyone you love, not to despair, but to love more freely, without attachment or control. This sounds counterintuitive, but think of a cherry blossom. Its beauty lies in its fragility. You can't hold on to it forever, and that's what makes its presence so sacred. We often try to protect ourselves from grief by not loving fully. But as the Buddha said, in the end, only three things matter: how well you lived, how deeply you loved, and how gracefully you let go. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means honoring, without clinging, loving, without trying to own. It means looking at those we cherish and saying, I see you, I love you, and I am grateful, even for the goodbye. Grief, when embraced gently, teaches us how to live with open hands. If you've ever lost someone you love, you're not alone. This is a safe space. Feel free to share your story in the comments, because sometimes healing begins when we speak. When you stop fearing death, you start truly living. There's a story told about a Zen master who was asked, "What is the most important thing in life?" He paused, smiled gently, and said, "To die before you die." What does that mean? It means letting go of the ego, the attachments, the illusions, before the body dies. It means waking up now, instead of waiting for some tragedy or diagnosis to shake us. When we stop pretending we're invincible, something incredible happens. We become free. Free to say what we truly feel. Free to forgive. Free to pursue dreams we've been too scared to chase. Free to sit in silence and simply be, without needing to prove anything to anyone. People who have had near-death experiences often return with a radically changed perspective. Suddenly, the small stuff doesn't matter. They laugh more. They cry more. They live more. It's as if the veil was lifted, and they saw life as the precious, fleeting gift that it is. In Buddhist thought, every breath is a rebirth. Every moment is a chance to awaken. Death isn't just something that happens once. It's a continual process of letting go, moment by moment, day by day. You only lose what you cling to. Buddha, letting go of the fear of death isn't about resignation. It's about liberation. When you stop fighting death, you begin dancing with life. Ask yourself, if I truly accepted that my time is limited, how would I live differently? Pause. Reflect, because the answers you find may change everything. The 5 regrets of the dying. Learning from those who see clearly. When someone knows their time is limited, something remarkable happens. The noise fades away, and what truly matters comes into crystal clear focus. Bronnie Ware, a palliative care nurse who spent years working with patients in their final weeks, documented a pattern that emerged again and again. These weren't just stories. They were warnings from those who could finally see the truth without distraction. The first regret: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Think about that for a moment. People on their deathbeds weren't regretting failed business ventures or unpurchased luxuries. They were mourning the dreams they never chased, the authentic self they never fully expressed. The second regret: I wish I hadn't worked so hard. So many of us sacrifice our health, relationships, and presence for the promise of security or success. But in those final moments, no one wishes they'd spent more time at the office. They wish for just one more conversation with a loved one, one more sunset, one more moment of connection. What about the third? I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. How many words of love remain unspoken? How many apologies never offered? How many truths buried beneath politeness and fear? The dying often realize too late that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the bravest form of strength. The fourth regret: I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. In our busy lives, we often let meaningful connections slip away. We tell ourselves we'll reconnect someday. But as the Buddha taught, impermanence waits for no one. Those relationships that once nourished us can dissolve before we find that perfect time to reach out. And finally, the fifth regret: I wish I had let myself be happier. This might be the most profound insight of all. Happiness wasn't something beyond their reach. It was a choice they never fully embraced. They stayed trapped in old patterns, familiar comforts, and the illusion of control. Ask yourself right now, if today were your last day, what would you regret not saying, not doing, not being? Don't just think about it. Write it down. Because awareness without action is simply knowledge without wisdom. The Buddha said, the trouble is, you think you have time. Oh, but what if you don't? What if today is all you have? How would that change your next choice, your next conversation, your next moment? If this reflection touches something in you, take a second to tap that like button. It helps others find these important messages too. The practice of death meditation, an ancient tool for modern peace. There's a powerful meditation practice in Buddhism called Maranasati, mindfulness of death. And before you click away thinking, this is too heavy, hear me out. This isn't about dwelling in darkness. It's about using death awareness as a flashlight that illuminates everything else. In traditional Buddhist monasteries, monks would sometimes visit charnel grounds, places where bodies were cremated. They would sit quietly, observing the natural process of decay and transformation, not out of morbidity, but as a profound reminder of what awaits us all. Now, I'm not suggesting you visit a cemetery today, though that can be a powerful practice. But there are gentler ways to bring death awareness into your life, ways that can dramatically shift your perspective. Here's a simple practice you can try. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Now imagine that you've just been told you have only 24 hours to live. Feel that news settle into your body. What sensations arise? What emotions surface? Ask yourself, what would I do with these final hours? Who would I call? What would I say? What would suddenly seem important or completely unimportant? Stay with these questions for several minutes. Don't rush the answers. Then slowly open your eyes and return to the present moment. This practice isn't meant to depress you. It's designed to clarify your priorities, to strip away distraction and reveal what matters most. Research from Harvard Medical School suggests that contemplative practices like this one can reduce anxiety, increase gratitude, and help people make more meaningful life choices. Dr. Ira Byock, a palliative care physician, explains, When we acknowledge our mortality, we become more authentic. We stop postponing joy and connection. I've practiced this meditation regularly for years, and I can tell you, it doesn't make me sad. It fills me with an urgency to live fully, to forgive quickly, to love openly, to waste less time on things that don't matter. As the Dalai Lama once said, "The purpose of our lives is to be happy." Death meditation doesn't contradict that purpose. It serves it by cutting through our delusions about what actually creates happiness. Try this practice once a week for a month. Notice how it changes your daily choices, your relationships, your ability to be present. Because when we face death regularly in our minds, we stop taking life for granted. The secret of letting go, how Buddhists master non-attachment. There's a fundamental teaching in Buddhism that's often misunderstood in the West. It's called non-attachment, and it might be the most liberating concept you'll ever encounter. Non-attachment doesn't mean not caring. It doesn't mean becoming cold or distant from life's experiences. It means loving without clinging, enjoying without grasping, living fully, while understanding that everything changes. Think about water for a moment. When you try to grab it, it slips through your fingers, but when you open your palm, it can rest there peacefully. This is how Buddhists approach everything in life, from relationships to possessions to their own bodies and minds. The Buddha taught that suffering, dukkha, comes from attachment, our desperate need to control, to possess, to make permanent what is inherently impermanent. We suffer when we can't accept the natural flow of life, when we demand that our loved ones never change, when we insist our bodies stay forever young, when we cling to outdated identities that no longer serve us. Science confirms this wisdom. Studies in psychology show that people who practice acceptance and mental flexibility report greater life satisfaction and resilience in the face of challenges. Dr. Stephen Hayes, founder of Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, notes, psychological flexibility is the ability to contact the present moment more fully and to change or persist in behavior when doing so serves valued ends. This is exactly what Buddhist non-attachment teaches. So how do we practice this letting go? It starts with awareness. When you feel that tightness in your chest, that desperate need to control an outcome, pause, breathe, notice the attachment forming. Then gently ask yourself, can I hold this more lightly? Can I care deeply without demanding that things stay the same forever? The Zen teacher Charlotte Joko Beck put it beautifully. Life always gives us exactly the teacher we need at every moment. This includes every mosquito, every misfortune, every red light, every traffic jam, every obnoxious supervisor or employee, every illness, every loss, every moment of joy or depression, every addiction, every piece of garbage, every breath. Everything is teaching us about impermanence, about letting go. When we resist these teachings, we suffer. When we embrace them, we find freedom. What's one thing you're holding too tightly right now? Share in the comments if you feel comfortable. Sometimes naming our attachments is the first step to releasing them. And if you're finding value in these insights, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more wisdom on living with greater peace and presence. Conscious dying. Preparing for a beautiful end. In Western culture, we often treat death as a medical event, something to be managed with technology, medications, and clinical efficiency. But in Buddhist traditions, dying is seen as a sacred passage, perhaps the most important transition we'll ever make. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying teaches that how we die matters deeply, not just for our comfort in those final moments, but for the quality of our consciousness as we transition. So what does it mean to die consciously? It means approaching death with awareness rather than denial. It means preparing emotionally and spiritually, not just legally and financially. It means clearing unfinished business and relationships while there's still time. In Bhutan, sometimes called the world's happiest country, people contemplate their mortality 5 times daily. It's not considered morbid. It's considered wise. A growing body of research supports this approach. Studies show that patients who have engaged in advanced care planning experience less anxiety, receive care more aligned with their values, and provide their loved ones with greater peace during difficult times. Dr. Atul Gawande, surgeon and author of Being Mortal, writes, "Our ultimate goal, after all, is not a good death but a good life to the very end." So what practical steps can we take to prepare for a conscious death? First, have the important conversations now. Tell your loved ones what matters to you. Discuss your wishes for end-of-life care. Don't wait for a crisis to share what's in your heart. Second, create legal documents that protect your choices, advance directives, healthcare proxies, and letters of instruction that go beyond the legalities to share your values and preferences. Third, practice presence and acceptance daily. The way we live becomes the way we die. If we've practiced being present with difficulty throughout life, we'll be better prepared to face our final challenge with grace. Fourth, consider working with your fear. Death anxiety is natural, but it doesn't have to control us. Whether through spiritual practices, therapy, or support groups, engaging with fear mindfully can transform it. The Buddhist teacher Stephen Levine said, "If you were going to die soon and had only one phone call you could make, who would you call and what would you say? And why are you waiting?" That question contains profound wisdom. Why are we waiting to live authentically, to love fully, to forgive completely? Take a moment right now to consider, what's one step you could take today to prepare for a more conscious transition when your time comes? Because a beautiful death isn't something that happens by accident. Like anything meaningful, it requires intention, preparation, and practice. If these reflections are helping you live with greater awareness, please help us share this wisdom by giving this video a thumbs up.